anybody give me an example of, how about this, why do we divide? And if you need to, give me an example of that, when you might do division outside of the classroom. Great. Everyday problems, like what? So how many Valentine cards is a good connection this week? So you might have a set number of Valentines and you need to make sure. What's one thing that we know about division? What are we trying to do right now with division? What is division? What does it mean to divide? Do you remember that? What are we trying to do? I know you weren't here yesterday too, when we were moving circles around. We were putting things into, dividing means putting things into equal groups. Okay, so right now, what we're trying to do with division is take a number, a big number, and break it down into equal groups, right? So if you were giving out Valentines to your friends, you'd probably want to make sure that you're giving them an equal amount of Valentines or an equal amount of Valentine candy, right? Can anybody think of another example of division, or when you might have done, when you might have, when maybe a family member has, maybe a friend? Grace. Your mom's an accountant, so your mom does division all the time, doesn't she? So an accountant, so that's a profession. So eventually, if you guys decide you want to do something with math when you grow up, you wouldn't be dividing all the time. Okay. So again, what does it mean to divide? What are we doing? What are we doing again? Sarah.
We are putting the big number into equal groups.
Yes, we're separating into equal groups, right? And the big key term here is equal. We're putting them into equal groups. So, can anybody tell me what an equation is for a number sentence? What is an equation? Tori. So an equation is numbers, or is it words? Numbers, okay. So an equation could be, you were saying like 50. Why don't you give me an example? 5 equals 4. So this whole thing right here is an equation. It's telling me 50 with the division symbol here, divided by 5 equals 4. It's also a number sentence, okay? You guys have been working on that. When you guys solve your math equations, or when you solve your math problems, sometimes it's in the form of a question, and sometimes we've been working on those word problems in particular, okay? So, why is it helpful for you to write out an equation, whether you're doing your homework, whether you're answering a math problem, or especially on the test? Why is it important that you write out an equation, Connor?
So you get the problem, like you make sure you know it. And 50 divided by 5 is not.
What is it? 10. That was a good catch. And that's another reason why we check our work, don't we? But yes, so you said to make, what'd you say?
To make sure you get the problem.
To make sure you get the problem. How about, let's be a little more specific. What are you working with? When you're solving something, when you're solving a word problem, you pick out something in the word problem to put into an equation. Numbers, yeah, to make sure you get the right numbers. What else? We've been talking about the language and the words in the word problems as well. So when you write out an equation, right now we're working with division, but if I'm not paying attention, or if I take the time to make sure that I write out an equation, and I pay attention to those words, okay, what did I do? What's up here in this equation? It's the division sign. So that's important too. So when I read those word problems, I really want to make sure that I don't just rush through it and come up with a number or just quickly multiply. I need to make sure that I write out an equation so I am clear as to what I need to do. Okay, and we'll work on that a little bit more today. Okay. So I want everybody to write this equation down in their math journal right now. Okay. And I want you to raise your hand if you can come up here and circle the dividend and tell me what dividend means. Core. And what I'll have you do, Core, is you see how this is in red? Like you just circle it in red. Okay? And for those of you who are writing this in your journal, circle the dividend. What is the dividend? What does dividend mean? Remember your math vocabulary is up here too, boys and girls. I know you've been writing this in your journal as well, but the dividend is what? Okay, so the dividend is the number to be divided in a division problem. Are we dividing 9 or are we dividing 54? So you can see here where it gets tricky. Dividend, divisor, those words are very close, aren't they? And it's a little tricky. And so if you know the actual definition of the word, June, then you would be able to ask yourself, did I do that right? Is that correct? So once Core was able to repeat the definition, he was able to figure out that he did not circle the dividend. Okay, so you guys should circle the dividend. Okay, who can come up here and underline the divisor for me? Aaron B. And while she's walking up here, those of you, I want you to think about, you can square the quotient. Square the quotient in that equation. I want you to be ready to tell me the definition too. Okay, so that is the divisor. To keep it straight, we're gonna underline it. Okay, so we're underlining the divisor because you guys don't always have colored pencils to work with right now. Okay, so what does divisor mean? What is the divisor? Okay, so it's the number that divides the dividend, right? Okay. All right, who would like to come up and square the quotient? What is the quotient? What does quotient mean? Okay, so boys and girls, when we are doing division, we are looking for the quotient, okay? Can someone put a star around the symbol that tells me what to do in this math equation so I know? So, Jude, come on up. Again, when you're writing your equation, boys and girls, it's very, very important that you write them clear. Give yourself enough space, okay? You don't want to mix up your symbols in the middle of that. Because we have been working with multiplication to help us with division, right? We've been doing inverse operations. So, what are the strategies that we have been using this week to separate into equal groups? Yes, Grace. What's that? We were doing multiplication. So specifically, do you remember what it is? One of your vocabulary. Do you remember what that was? What? Inverse operations. So we've been working on inverse operations, and Grace said it's multiplication. So what does that mean to you, Grace? We've been doing inverse operations. How does that help you? So if you know your multiplication facts, which we've been talking about, getting to know those a little bit better or be a little more fluent at them, that will help us when we're doing division, right? So what other strategy have we been doing? We just started this yesterday, so I know some of you were not here for that. So here's the book. So what your book calls that is model division. Okay? So model division, you are modeling, in particular what the book uses is circles, right? You are modeling what that division looks like. What it looks like when you're actually doing that. Okay? We are going to work with model division today, and we're going to take it one step further. We are going to use what's called manipulatives, just like those 10 blocks that you guys used in multiplication. We're going to use what manipulatives, and your book calls them counters. Okay, so you're going to use those today, just like the model division that we're going to do on the board, but you're going to do it at your desk. Okay, so I want you guys to write in your journals right now. Write down. I want you to find the inverse of these equations that I have up here. Find the inverse of the following equations. Right. And when you're finished with that, I want you guys to think about what's the dividend, what's the divisor, what's the quotient, what's the factor, what's the product. Symbol on the computer. Yep, we'll definitely go look at that. Okay, so who can come up here and show me the inverse of the first problem and explain their thinking while they're doing it? Tell me what you're doing. Tyler, would you like to come up here? First, you had to find what? Whatever that's called. Well, this is multiplication, right? So you got to remember back to the factor. Yes. Okay. So if we were doing the inverse operations to help us solve this, what would I do if I were writing the inverse of this first equation? Right.
6 divided by 3.
Okay. And how'd you know that? How did you get there? How'd you do that for those of you who are we're still working on it?
I did I was just that.
Very good thinking. Boys and girls, let me ask you a question. Could I do this? Does that work as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so that's what inverse operation means. Thank you, Tyler.